Thank y'all so much for coming out. I do appreciate you taking a moment to step away from your busy, busy duties to be here for what I believe is a very important cause. There's an acronym for TEAM, and that acronym is, I don't want to get it wrong. Together, everyone achieves more. I believe that. So again, thank you for being here. At this time, I'd like to bring to our front Commissioner Jamie DeLoach, who will offer a couple of thoughts in our invitation.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Stephanie was just saying, thank you all for being here today. This is something that unfortunately has affected a lot of family, even people that we know. It's been near and dear to our hearts. So thank y'all for coming. If y'all will, please bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to come together and bring awareness to this terrible tragedy. We would ask that you please keep your hands around those that have been affected with family members and friends. We know that the healing process will always continue, and we just ask that you continue to help them through that process, Lord. And please be with us and help us to always remember that all good things come through you, Lord. And in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, Commissioner DeLoach. Okay, up next, we're going to have a testimonial from Commissioner Forrest Floyd.
Give me a second, get set up here. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I appreciate y'all being here and being supportive of this issue. It's very important to me. I lost my son, Forrest Floyd III, to suicide a little over 6 years ago. He was 26 years old. A little bit about Forrest. He was a popular kid, good looking, full of life. He loved sports, played football, baseball, and loved to hunt. He was a big duck hunter, and some of my best memories were taking him out to Arkansas on our duck hunting trips annually. He grew up here in Effingham, actually over in my district, District 1. He attended both South Effingham Elementary, South Effingham Middle, and South Effingham High. During middle school, Forrest started having some serious digestive issues. He was eventually diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And if any of you know anything about that disease, this is a debilitating disease. It controls your life. You have to be near a restroom. You never know when you're going to have to deal with that issue. And in school, he would have to get up and leave class. On the football field, he'd have to run off the field to the locker room. His whole life was centered around being around a restroom. And for a teenage kid, that's tough. It's depressing. The anxiety of dealing with that can be overwhelming. We tried to handle it with different medications. We went to numerous doctors, but nothing really helped. Finally, we found a doctor, and they started giving him a monthly Remicade IV infusion. He'd go to the hospital and spend the day there and get a drip of this medication. That started in about the 9th grade. The IV treatments helped, but the disease continued to have a negative impact on his life. His last 2 years of high school were hit or miss as far as attendance due to his Crohn's disease. Most of the time, we had a teacher coming to the house with his studies. He wasn't able to play football his senior year, the sport he truly loved. This led to self-destructive behavior, self-medication. He started experimenting with drugs and drinking alcohol. It totally changed his life. He went from a well-rounded young man to a troubled kid. He did graduate. We tried the college route, but that didn't work out. And sadly, while he was away, he found the wrong crowd there and continued down the wrong path with drugs and alcohol. He came home, tried several jobs, but again, his Crohn's affected his life. During this time, and this was about a six-year period from, say, 16 until he passed at 26, he was getting in trouble. He'd start drinking, get in fights, some stupid antic, and he would end up getting arrested. As a parent, you don't really know what to do. Several times we bailed him out, and other times we leave him in jail. Usually, hopefully to teach him a lesson. And it would for a while. But 6 months later, it would be the same thing. We then put him in several rehab facilities. And again, he would come out clean and positive about life, but it was an ongoing cycle of happy to miserable or angry. While in one of the rehab facilities, he met a young man that was a barber. He tried cutting hair and he enjoyed it. He liked the personal interaction of talking with his client while he worked. Boris came to me one day and said, "Dad, I think I want to be a barber." And at first I thought, typical father response, a barber, what kind of career is that? But then I thought back to the fellow that cut my hair for 30 years while I was growing up, Mr. Randall Kicklighter out in Garden City. He always had a wad of bills in his pocket. And I thought, you might be onto something, buddy. So I sent him to barber school to get his license. Once he finished, he worked over in Lincoln for a while, and then he moved to a bigger shop over in Pooler. And he was doing well. From there, I set him up a little shop in a business that I had over in the Pooler area. He had 2 chairs. He worked out of one and he rented the other. And I told him, I said, "Buddy, when you grow out of this, we're going to open you a business. You'll have 6 chairs, you can rent 5, work out of one, and before long, you're going to be walking around with a wad of money in your pocket." Seems like things were on the right track, but he still had these cycles of depression, anger, and anxiety. 9 months before he passed, he made a post on Facebook. He was very active on Facebook. He posted a picture of his head in his hands and just looking off in the distance. It's just a sad picture, and it just shows the desperation that this kid was dealing with. And it said, "Depression on top of having Crohn's could possibly be the worst combination ever. If you're close to me, you know I've been fighting battles within myself. I don't know why I've been down lately. I finally have control of my Crohn's disease, but my mental stability has been the worst it's ever been. Everything is good. I have no reason to be down, but I am. If anybody can send me prayers and good vibes, it will be greatly appreciated. Thanks to everyone that's been there for me." Over 260 kids reached out and put a like, tear, or heart on that post, and over 100 kids commented and reached out to tell him that they loved him. Boris was loved. He just couldn't feel the love. That's what's hard to understand. He had everything at his disposal. His mother and I did all we could to try to save him. Three days after Christmas in 2018, he took his life. Our lives have been changed ever since. Suicide doesn't just affect a few, it's far-reaching, and it's an ongoing grief for those affected that have to deal with it forever. As a parent, there's a lot of guilt trying to understand what could have I done different. We did all we knew to do. There's no handbook when you have a child, you just do the best that you can. On a positive note, my son and his girlfriend Kayla blessed us with a grandson 12 years ago. He is also named Forrest. Kayla has become like a daughter to me, and she's doing a great job of raising him. And little Forrest is still a big part of my life. From this experience, I always try to find the positive in life. I've grown very intolerant to negative, petty people. And the last thing I want to say, if somebody reaches out, give them a minute of your time and listening. You just never know what someone is dealing with. And a few minutes of kindness may change their life. Thank y'all for being here, and thank y'all for being supportive.
Thank you, Commissioner Floyd. There is nothing more meaningful than a testimony, someone who's actually been through it. And I think on some level, every single one of us here today have been touched by the loss of a loved one or a family member through suicide. Thank you, Commissioner Floyd. Next, we're going to have our Director of EMS, Ms. Wanda McDuffie.
Good day, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to come here and speak to you about something that's near and dear to all of our hearts. As you just heard Floyd reflecting back on his past experience. it doesn't get any closer than that than losing one of your own children. In our county today, there's probably not one person who has not felt the effects of suicide or attempted suicide. As you all know, suicide isn't always caused by one event or one reason. Many things can increase the risk of suicide. It has no boundaries. It doesn't matter if you're a dispatcher, a firefighter, EMS, or law enforcement, black, white, young or old, rich or poor, living in a mansion or living on the street corner. I can recall 12 years ago, while on duty, there was suddenly a lot of radio chatter looking for a possible suicidal person. Officers had located this person. They called EMS to come. As we pulled in, I was thinking, what could cause somebody to be so desperate? It was a beautiful morning. It was cold. It was snow flurries were falling. And my friend, a very well-respected gentleman of our community, had taken his life. I think of him every January 23rd. The highest rates of suicide has been observed in middle-aged adults. My friend fell in this category, and older adults, 65 and older. But there's also been a concerning rise in suicides among younger people, including adolescents and our young adults. Males are significantly more likely to die by suicide than females, although females tend to have a higher rate of suicide attempts. EMS data can help illustrate these differences in various communities. This is why it's important for EMS to collect and report this data to better understand the trends and inform the broader public health response to increase community programs and preventive measures to help reduce the suicide rate. Since January 2024, the county has had 33 attempted suicides, 15 completed. 8 of these have been since the start of this year. The most common are by overdose and firearms. I feel like the attempted suicide rate is probably higher because most patients, when we arrive there, they say, I didn't mean to hurt myself, it was an accident. So therefore, it's not reported as a suicide attempt. We need to get the word out to people who are experiencing despair, loneliness, or overwhelmed by life's challenges that they are not alone. Psalms 34:18 says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and save those who are crushed in spirit. Even in our darkest moments, God is nearby. There is help, and no one has to go through their struggles alone. I am grateful God has been with me in my life, and I pray that those who are suffering can find comfort and strength in His Word as well. Thank you for this time to speak.
And that's statistics from our EMS director. What they see that we never lay eyes on, the understanding that they have of what's going on in the background with our young and old. Thank you, Ms. Wanda. Up next, we're going to have some thoughts from our first responder perspective from Chief and EMA Director, Clint Hodges.
Good morning, everybody. I appreciate everybody coming out to support this event and bring light to this topic that unfortunately we deal with from a first responder aspect, oftentimes on a weekly basis and occasionally a daily basis. Ms. Stephanie asked me to kind of speak from the perspective of a first responder, but I'm not just going to do that, because while we do experience people in their time of need and people who have either they've reached points of despair where they feel like this is the only way out, or may even take action on it, it's not just important to focus on those individuals. It's an issue for everybody here. Even if we ourselves haven't necessarily experienced it, those thoughts in our minds, or even somebody immediately close to us, it's just something that affects all of us. I would imagine there's probably not anybody here today that hasn't in some way, shape, or form experienced the loss of somebody or the attempted loss. But one thing I really wanted to focus on is making sure that we reach out to those around us and use every opportunity we have to promote positivity. Especially in the world we live in now, we have constant access to information, whether it's through social media or other aspects, And a lot of times just negativity tends to spread. But I want to challenge everybody to take the opportunity to be that positive light out there. Don't take the opportunity to spread negativity, just be that positive light. And if you have somebody that's acting a little bit different or struggling, be the person that can reach out to them, because you may be the person that changes their life. You may be the person that can actually get through to that person or get them the resources that they need. So with that being said, that's the one thing I want to encourage everybody is just to be the person, be that positive person that can reach out to everybody. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Stephanie.
Thank you, Chief Hodges. Very true words. One person can make the difference in the lives of many. Never doubt your ability to affect positive change. Thank you again, Chief. Up next, we're going to have our Director of 911, Mr. Jay Spinks, speaking on the story of 911 calls and giving us some data that they see on their end as well.
Thank you, Ms. Stephanie. First off, I appreciate being the opportunity to come out and speak to everybody here. Again, this is a very important and something that's dear to my heart. 2014, I lost my dad to suicide after a losing battle with cancer. So everybody is affected in one way or another. And going back to something Ms. Stephanie and I were discussing earlier, we as individuals sometimes find it comforting or self-preservation to put ourselves in a bubble. It doesn't happen here. It's, I'm okay. This is suicide threats, suicide ideations is something that happens to some other family down the road, another county, your bigger cities. But sadly, I've got some numbers here I'm going to share with you that really brings it close to home. I had Mr. Wilson, my deputy director, pull some numbers for me this morning for the last 5 years here in Effingham County. Mental health crisis calls that we've received, suicide threats, suicide calls. The caller has already taken some kind of measure, whether it's taking pills, cut themselves, harm themselves in some kind of way. For the year 2020, Effingham County 911 processed 487 calls. 2021, 538 calls were processed. 2022, 606 calls were processed. For 2023, 685 calls were processed. Moving on to 2024, last year, 928 calls processed. So far, for our current year of 25, and we're just stepping into September, realize this, we've already processed 710 calls for outcries, people needing help, some kind of mental crisis issue going on in their life. Percentage change for the last 5 years, from 2020 to 2025, we have seen a 45.8% increase in mental crisis calls. People are calling for help. The real sad part of this is I also have numbers for people who made a permanent choice for a lot of times what can be a temporary situation. I'm going to share with you numbers of actual deaths by suicide that we have received. For 2020, there were 7 deaths, suicide related. 2021, we received 9 deaths, suicide. 2022, we processed 9 deaths in the county for suicide. 2023, it was 4 calls. 2024, we went to 10 calls, deaths by suicide. So far for 2025, we're at 3 calls. A total of 42 deaths in a 5-year span. And I've been in this business 31 years, and it was easy to, at one time, back in the 90s, say, okay, we're coming into the holidays. this is going to be our busy time. This is our depressed caller. This is our suicidal callers. That statement no longer rings true. It's any time of the year now. It may be a beautiful spring day. It may be a beautiful autumn day. We're going to get calls. Someone needs help. It still holds true moving to the holidays. Now we're approaching the holiday season. Yes, we do see an uptick in calls, people depressed, people feeling suicidal. But it's not just the holidays, it's every day. So again, to follow piggyback on what some of the others have said, if you think you can make a difference in someone's life, try to be that difference, because you never know what anybody's going through. A smile on the face, that you still know you don't know what's going on inside their head. And thank you so much, and I'll turn it back over to Ms. Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Director Spinks. The evidence is appalling, is it not? It's happening right here at home, whether we believe it or not. The cry is being made. We have to answer the call for help. So I'd like to share my story at this time. Last year, on this day, Suicide Awareness Day, a cousin, that was more like a brother, took his life. He was a very kind-hearted, very giving, always had a smile on his face, would do what he could to help anyone. And there were so many of us in the family that didn't see it coming. If we had to guess of someone that would take their life, this person would have been the last person on the list. Well, next to me, of course. Let your light shine against the darkness. A kind word or a friendly smile to your family, friends, or coworkers, or even a stranger on the street could truly make a difference. Let your light shine against the darkness. At some point in life, we all fight battles. We all encounter moments of struggle. Keep that in mind when you engage others. Remember the person you look at in the mirror every day, who continues to press forward. Extend that grace to others. Let your light shine against the darkness. So during my cousin's service, we actually used it as an opportunity because there were so many young, old people in participation. We used it as an opportunity to share suicide prevention awareness. The colors for suicide victim awareness that you see here were represented at his service as well. And I offered a poem that I wrote, and I'd like to share it with you now. How do we begin? Where do we start? To be effective in our ability to help mend a breaking heart. When do we stop the gossip and judgment of others and make our mark? Let us cease from tearing people down and focus on doing our part. This world for us all at times can be a cold, lonely place. May we see beyond the mask so we can help him or her out of that dark space. Make it practice, my friends, and family and cohorts to say, it is no shame in sharing when you are not okay. It's a simple choice in defining the art of saying, I stand ready to do my part. Do you all stand ready to do your part today? I certainly do. So at this time, I'd like to have a moment of silence. And after we take that moment of silence, I would like everyone to take a balloon, and we will do this release in the memory of our loved ones, our friends, and if you can just in your head. Or if you prefer out loud, call the name of that person that you want to remember today. So I will be the first to call the name out loud. I'd like to remember Bailey Lamont Gaines. Anybody else? Jody Cassetti.
Grace Bates.
Ronnie Sheila. Kara Riley, APC Papers. Okay, everyone. Today we remember the lives of those who have gone on. And today we stand, today we pledge to continue to honor those individuals and to be support for those who may need our help. Today we remember, and we release in 3, 2, 1.